Talking Taboo starts right now.
Let's get talking taboo.
We are accompanied by the lovely Miss Toto, one of South Florida's favorite drag queens. To start off, what pronouns do you typically prefer me to use when referring to you?
I mainly present masculine, whether that's like, I usually am not wigged around, nails, but I do usually have glitter or some sort of makeup, or my nails are fancy, who knows, whatever. But if I am in drag, I do prefer female pronouns, because if I spend all that time trying to create the character Miss Toto, which is female, I don't want that to be discredited.
So, Miss Toto, how did you get your start in drag? What was the first time you ever dressed up, put on the nails, did the hair, full makeup?
I was probably 6, but I've been dressing up and like dabbling forever. For as long as I can remember, I've always wanted to dress up. But then it wasn't until I moved here and started going out to parties that is, well, actually the main reason I started going out and doing drag is because I wanted free drinks. There was a party that was starting called Counter Corner, and they advertised if you non-heteronormative, so if you didn't dress like a straight person, you could get free drinks all night. And I said, absolutely doing that. So I went to the bar in a really, really garbage wig and a pair of heels. No, I wasn't even wearing heels, and I just got ballistic. So then, like, there was a drag queen there, and, well, there were actually 2 of them, Julie E. Carla, and they were like, you need to be doing drag, you're hilarious. And I said, no. So then the next month, I went back, pushed it a little further, I wore heels this time, still looking a mess. And they were like, no, you're really funny. There's something about you need to be doing drag. So let's make you a drag name. So they did. We came up with the name Miss Toto that night, and it stuck. And then from that point on, I'm at party once a month for the past 2.5 years. So it's been crazy.
So what exactly did they use to come up with the name Miss Toto? What were the cues that they felt would be appropriate for that?
Well, we were like I don't even remember some of the other options. I wish I did. But because of Miss Toto, because of what it means in Spanish slang, and then
right.
Also the brand of toilet, which I think is hysterical. And people also tie it back to the Wizard of Oz. It has so many meanings. It's up to interpretation to whatever is the most palatable for that audience, I guess.
Right.
Because being in Miami, people are like, oh my God, you know what that means, right? And I'm like, yeah, I guess.
That was on purpose.
Right. I'm like, no, tell me, what does it mean?
Do you feel like
if I do, well, I was going to say if I do other gigs that are more family friendly, I always say it's the dogs from the Wizard of Oz.
Got you.
So
okay. So you have 2 options.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you feel like you were ever considering maybe doing theater before doing drag? Were you ever a theater kid and maybe that helped you transition into drag performance? Or is this mostly the only type of artistic expression you've ever really engaged in?
No, I've been performing forever, so getting on stage and doing that whole was never new. So everything performance-wise has come really natural. It was just defining a character, because with drag, you don't have to pick one character, but it makes it easy. It made it easier for me to have and create that persona. So then that was the hard part for me, is learning how to do the makeup and the hair and creating an aesthetic that fit what I wanted to be. But the performing stuff has always been easy because I've been performing since I was born. Literally since I was born.
Right.
So, Miss Toto, we have a lot of viewers who last week were learning what transgenderism is, and everything related to that included cross-dressing or dressing as the opposite gender that you identify with. And I know you said you usually present in a masculine when you're not in drag. Do you think there are underlying themes of transgenderism in drag?
I mean, I've noticed, especially from my experience, that there are a lot of trans people that do drag, which I think is really good, because in a normal sense or a stereotypical sense, you would think it's men dressing as women, but then you also have women who are just performers, and just because they're trans doesn't make them women, and just because they're trans doesn't make them not drag queens. Or some don't want to identify as a drag queen, because drag has the connotation that you're performing as the opposite gender. So there are some trans people that want to be called showgirls or performers. So I feel like drag in the broad sense has really opened up people's ideas to what gender is, and put it on a broad spectrum and brought it into light, because many people still don't know what transgender know or understand that gender is a spectrum.
Now, Miss Toto, a common question is why gay men are more comfortable going out of their way to dress in ways that aren't typical of men to dress in, typically straight men. Mm-hmm. Why do you think it is that a lot of gay men feel comfortable breaking those boundaries of masculinity and femininity? What do you think it is about drag that allows a gay man to take on this new role without feeling uncomfortable?
I mean, nothing about drag is comfortable, at all. Never.
Right.
But I feel like it's just that there are more opportunities for men or for drag queens out there opposed to drag kings. That doesn't mean they aren't out there. They're definitely out there. There are people who there are women who want to do drag, or they just don't know that drag kings are a thing, or they don't know that you can still be a girl and do drag. So I feel like it has to do with visibility, because there are more visible drag queens. It makes more sense that there would be more men wanting to do drag. But if there were more visible drag kings or more visible hyper queens, which are females doing drag, I feel like there would be more of them popping up too. Because if you're on the internet, if you're on Twitter, you see hyper queens, drag kings, everything back and forth.
Now, when people meet you and you tell them about your profession, do you ever get maybe negative reactions? How do people usually treat you when you tell them that you are a performer? Or is there anything else you do on the side, or is drag really your life?
Drag is not my life, but at all. But it's interesting because either people meet me as a drag and then they're surprised that I'm also a personal trainer.
Right.
Or they meet me as a personal trainer and then they're surprised that I'm a drag queen. So it's fun to see both, because you don't find many fit drag queens, and you also don't find many, on both ends. It's like, you're a drag queen, but you're so muscular, or you're so muscular and you're a drag queen. It's like a little both like that.
I think that in itself is pretty much breaking the boundaries, because I think people get too comfortable with labeling. So it almost seems like even in the drag community, people are trying to label what drag is, when in reality, when you do anything, you can do it to the best of your own abilities and kind of shape it to how you want to do it. Definitely. So I think it's awesome that you are fit and you're doing drag, because that in itself kind of debunks the whole argument that drag has to be effeminate. But I think that mixture you have of masculinity and effeminacy kind of gives you
an edge.
Yeah, an edge. It gives you the image that everyone knows you for. So bouncing off what you were saying, do you ever feel like you have to be a certain way when you're doing drag? Or as a gay man, do you ever feel like you have to act a certain way or have to be a specific stereotype when you're talking to people? Because I know specifically me, when I talk to certain girls, I almost feel forced, or almost feel like they expect me to be their gay best friend, or they expect me to be really funny all the time or be very shady, because that's what gay men are. Do you ever feel this pressure to be something that you just inherently know you don't want to be?
I used to when I was younger, but now that I've stepped out of it, more of my friends are LGBT. I don't have any time to be acting like anybody else besides myself. That's number one. Because being a performer, you're somebody else for a large part of your day anyway. So then when I'm out of drag, the last thing I want to be doing is putting on a face for somebody else too.
Right.
And I wouldn't say that Miss Toto is not me, but it's a portion of me.
Right.
So, in being out in the community, you can't just be a mess and talk shit about people and be rude. That's also not who I am. But you have to hold yourself to a certain standard, because people see you. You are being paid to be. You're being paid to be a performer. You're being paid to be funny and talk and do all this stuff. So you kind of have to hold yourself to a certain standard and not be a mess.
So, Miss Toto, have people ever come up to you, recognize you out in Miami, asking for an autograph? What is your reaction to that?
Wait, so what?
Has anyone ever seen you outside when you're not in drag and they've recognized you and they say, Miss Toto, and come up to you? Has that ever happened?
Oh, yeah.
And what is
It's
that?
kind of fun. It doesn't bother me at all. But it's kind of cool to have a crossover because all of my clients know that I do drag. So seeing them out at some of my shows is nice because it's like they're showing me that they care about the other facets of my life other than fitness.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, it's not weird. It's only weird when people kind of fan out. They're like, oh my God, Miss Toto. I'm like, this is really uncomfortable. I don't get it because I don't see myself as one of those people that you would fan out for. I try to be really personable and normal and, like, you can connect. Like, I try to talk to everybody like they're my best friend.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And I want everyone to feel like they talk to me about anything and I have the time to talk to you about anything. So when people, like, kind of fangirl out, it's a little weird.
Do you ever feel like you kind of have, because of drag, a specific platform of influence? Like, do you ever feel as though maybe you have now more power than you've ever had before to make a greater impact?
I think so, but that also ties into where I am in my life outside of drag. So, because, like, I think I have more visibility and opportunities to say more things because more people are paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
But because of where I am in my life, Miss Toto is another just platform and level that I can take it.
Right.
And people do pay attention because it's like, oh, you have a wig on now, so suddenly everything you say matters.
Right.
It shouldn't be that way, but it is.
Do you ever find yourself performing outside of Miss Toto? Have you ever given a performance that you felt was more you than the persona you play?
I mean, all of my performances are me, of course.
Right.
But there are some that I put more into. Like if I'm feeling something, or like if I'm going through like a breakup or heartbreak or something, I'm gonna do this, and like because I need to get it out.
Right. So it's like it's almost an outlet, because I've noticed that a lot of celebrities, they kind of have a disconnect between who they really are and who their moniker or their stage name is. I know I watched an interview with Katy Perry, and she was mentioning how every time she gets called Katy Perry, she has to kind of act like Katy Perry, and she doesn't feel like she can act like Kate Hudson, which is what her real name is and who her real identity is. So do you ever feel that sort of like disconnect between you and your drag performances, or do you try to keep it authentic and sincere whenever you perform?
It does get exhausting if I'm in drag for a while, because I don't feel it in the moment, but like reflecting on like what just happened to me for the past like 7 hours. Who was that person? Because I have a way I like to carry myself when I'm in drag, and it's so bubbly and energetic, and I like that in my normal life, but I feel like Miss Toto's that on hyperdrive.
Right. Now, when you perform, it's typically in club settings, I'm assuming. So do you ever maybe see things in a club setting that you feel kind of speak to the gay community? Like, do you get a better look of what people are like? Because I know, for example, bartenders, since they spend so much time serving drinks to people, they might be able to see people in a different light. Do you feel as though you see people in a different light? Do you feel as though people are more confident being themselves when they're at drag shows? Do you feel that drag shows are maybe even a safe space for people to go to and just, express themselves?
It depends on where you are. So I perform at a lot of venues, and at some venues I'm just like, I'm not going to use the word disgusted, but I like sitting on the bar, I will watch the whole night go down. Like when people come in the bar at the beginning and they just get super drunk and then do whatever, like get your judge, do whatever you need to.
Right.
But then in other spaces, I'm able to connect more with people and have real conversations, and I can tell that people feel comfortable there. And I was talking to someone yesterday that using drag queens as a caveat to create safe spaces. So as an LGBT person, if I see a drag queen at a location, in my head, that is a connection that is a safe space. Because it's like, if she's there doing the damn most, I can go there and be myself.
Right.
So, Miss Toto, I know I've looked at you online, I've seen pictures, you're stunning, obviously. And I noticed that you are not only super in shape, like you were saying, your personal trainer, but you're also African American and you're male. So do you feel like there's a hierarchy within the drag community with race, with gender?
feel like, as far as race, like, not discrediting any of the white queens out there, but you have to work so much harder.
Say that again. Say it again.
That's what I wanted to
But
hear.
literally, like, I'm here doing the most, like, splitting, flipping, kicking, like, doing the most tricks, prosthetics, all this drama, and then a white queen can literally put on a bodysuit with, like, pink Jeffree Star eyeshadow, and she somehow has 10,000 followers on Instagram. I'm like, okay. But taking a step back from that, it's like she may be having an impact on certain people, but I'm having an impact, personal impact, because I can connect with people on a different aside from whatever is on the internet. Because the internet is stupid. Like, it has its place, but, like, it's dumb.
Now, I know with a lot of influence and a lot of fans, sometimes hate might come about. Do you find yourself getting hate messages or hate mail?
No, it's usually people talking, like, people telling me that people are talking about me. I usually don't get many things, like, in my own inbox of people being like, what are you doing? You shouldn't be doing drag. It's a lot of stuff, like, I love that show, Slay, I love your hair, or whatever.
Right.
And I think that ties into it being a specific niche. Like, no one's going to follow me if they don't like what I'm doing.
Right, right.
So, it's all positive, which is nice, because I'm sure there are a lot of queens that do get hate.
Right.
And I know RuPaul's Drag Race is now slowly but surely becoming more mainstream. So do you think that's somewhere in your future, maybe applying for the show or just taking part in the show in any way, or maybe giving it a shot? Or do you have any big performances coming up that you're really stoked for?
As far as Drag Race, my life is so busy. Like, in every aspect, to sit down and work on an application is not something that I can do right now, because I'm doing 100,000 things at once, and I think it'd be cool. It'd be a great experience to apply, and I would probably learn some things about myself and, like, I guess video edit or something. But right now, no. But I admire the girls who can sit down and make a video and then get on the show, because they're all incredible.
Right. And I know drag in itself has kind of been a very, like, influential part of LGBTQ history. And in New York during, like, the AIDS epidemic, it was one of the biggest factors in kind of helping people find that sense of solace. Do you ever feel that weight or pressure on your shoulders to maybe make people feel good about themselves, make people feel safe when they see you? Do you ever go to Pride and feel that responsibility of being like, I'm an icon, I'm an image, I'm a brand, and it's
like
almost
a celebrity,
like a celebrity, and I have that power and influence to kind of take care of people?
It doesn't. Well, I don't ever feel like it's a pressure or a responsibility. I think I just do it naturally. Because when like I said before, when I talk to people, I want them to feel like my best friend. I want them to feel completely comfortable and normal talking to me. Like, it's nothing unusual for me to take the time out of a party for 20 minutes to talk to someone who looks like they're alone, or they came to the party by themselves because they think it's a safe space. They need to leave that experience with something positive, opposed to going and being like, I made no friends. They can leave and be like, oh, I got to hang out with Miss Toto for 20 minutes. She was so cool. I'm definitely going to come back to this party.
Right.
Or because every time you go, you're going to meet a person. You're going to make new friends. You're going to build your own community.
Right. I definitely feel like everything you're saying is true. I actually met Miss Toto a couple months ago. She was performing at the pool at the University of Miami. She was giving...
No way.
She was, like, commemorating the Little Mermaid. She was performing for kids, actually, which I thought was incredible, because parents went out of their way to bring kids to the University of Miami to watch men perform drag. And I think you definitely hit the nail right on the head. You made me feel so comfortable. When I approached you, you were so open to talk to me and so open to answer my questions, which is one of the main reasons we even reached out again, because we knew you were such a warm-hearted person. And I think that's so important to see, because one of the stereotypes in the LGBTQ community is that gay men are sassy and sometimes might be really witty, but in a very, like, negative light. And so it's just nice, to see you break out of that stereotype, right? To be approachable, to be a queen that is, yes, can be sassy, but at the end of the day is, a very vulnerable, intimate, and kind person.
Why, thank you.
Miss Toto, so Paul told me that you're coming to UM tomorrow. So can you tell me a little bit about the event that you're hosting tomorrow night?
So I'm going to be performing at Drag Out. I don't know who the other performers are, so if you know, that'd be cool. But I did my songs like last week, just giving a mix of some very quintessential like Miss Toto songs, because I know that there are a lot of people at that may not know who I am, or only see, or like have only seen or witnessed one form of drag. So I need to like give them a little mix up, confuse them a little bit.
Right.
Miss Toto, I'm one of those people. So tomorrow night is a big night for me.
Yeah, it's gonna be so fun.
What should I expect? What do I look out for?
I don't know who the other performers are, but I know from me, you're gonna get a lot of body. A lot of body, yeah.
A little scandalous.
A lot. I don't want to say glitter because I'm trying to stay away from glitter, but there's a lot of sparkles and gems on what I'm wearing, and then there's also a lot of movement. I'm going to be running around that room. I don't even know where I'm performing. Running around wherever the space is, just taking complete control. So I was in LA one time, and one of the queens was there early, and she said, "I could tell you were from Miami when you walked in the room." And I said, "How could you tell that?" She said, "Well, you look around and you size up what you can jump off of, where you can run down."
That is so
size
funny.
Up the area to see what you can do, and I'm like, she's completely right, because that's exactly what I do at every event.
Are Miami queens known for being like very interactive with the audience?
I would say Miami queens are known for utilizing the space.
So extra.
So if you give us a space, whether or not that's the stage can end, but that doesn't mean the drag queen stage ends.
Right. So tomorrow I'm actually one of the performers.
Woo!
So why don't you give me some advice in terms of what I can do to maybe bring my A game a little higher up?
One of my favorite things makes some people feel really uncomfortable, but I make eye contact with every person I can.
Right.
Like, I literally will look into your soul as I'm performing. That's fun. But then also, I've noticed the best performances I've done is when I lose. Like, if I don't think about what I'm doing, if I just let me do what I need to do. I don't know how you would be as a performer. I don't know if you've performed before.
He's going to be fabulous.
Like, out of drag or whatever. But for me, anyway, if I let loose, the performance ends up so much better.
Okay. Well, if you see me mess up at all, feel free to come up, hold my hand.
No, he's just going to make eye contact.
Or make eye contact
just
and
across the room.
Make me feel insecure. But in terms of dating, do you ever feel as though you're maybe shunned from the dating scene because you do drag? Do you ever feel as though some gay guys might be uncomfortable with the fact that you do drag? Is that ever an issue?
I usually get the opposite. They're like queen chasers.
Oh, interesting. What does that mean? Tell the people.
So they like fall in love with Miss Toto, and then we go on a date, and they realize that I'm Miss Toto. Like, I'm Rock, and Miss Toto is a character. Which is fine, whatever. So I get that, but then I also encounter people being like, well, you are kind of intimidating because you have all these things going for you, which I can understand, but then I also wouldn't want to be with somebody who is afraid of me being intimidating.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? Like, if you're going to be, basically, if you're a little bitch, I'm going to date you anyway.
Right. Do you ever feel as though you kind of have to be kinder? Because you are very confident, so do you ever feel like you have to tone that down when you meet certain people or when you're performing? Because I know as a drag performer, sometimes you might be amidst an audience of people that have never been to a drag show. So do you ever catch people feeling uncomfortable? Do you ever see it in their faces? If you do see it in their faces, what do you do?
Sometimes, but also I said this in an interview yesterday, like, if people are uncomfortable with what I'm doing, that is their problem and not mine.
Yes.
Right.
110%. Because I'm doing what I want to do as a performer up here, and if you don't like that, you don't need to like my performance, and you don't need to like me. My goal as a drag queen and a performer is not to make everyone like me, but it's to express how I feel and express some of the things that are going on in my life through my performances. Just make connections with people so they can then feel more comfortable in who they are. So if you don't like me, that's fine. If my performances make you uncomfortable, that's fine, because there are thousands of other drag queens that you may like better than me.
Right. I have an interesting question, which I find ridiculous, but I think you might agree with me. A lot of heat on Twitter I've seen has come from the fact that some people feel as though drag is raising unrealistic expectations of what women should look like. Do you agree with that?
Ooh.
Like, do women have to have these like accentuated body parts to be beautiful?
No, I think that also ties into drag. So, like, if you don't want to pad as a drag queen, don't pad. If
Right.
you don't want to have big hair as a drag queen, don't have big hair. That also ties into women. If you don't want to wear a lot of makeup, I'm sure you look great without makeup. Don't wear a lot of makeup. If you don't want to do it, don't do it.
I think that,
like,
that's
there's
perfectly
so many
said.
drag queens.
Absolutely.
So, what were you going to say?
Oh, I was gonna ask, have you ever dated another drag queen?
I have not. I feel like that'd be a lot.
Why do you say that?
Personality. Not saying that I'm opposed to it, but it's like, I know how busy I am with all the stuff I'm doing, and like I'm bouncing from gig to interview to gig to working on a costume to working on a show, and it's like, if you're doing that too, when are we ever going to find time to hang out?
Right.
That's true.
And there are queens that date other queens successfully, but not saying I don't see it happening for myself, but it has never happened to me yet.
Now,
Yeah.
today is Valentine's Day, so
Yes.
do you have any plans for tonight? Do you have a special someone in your life that you want to give a shout out to? What exactly does your Valentine's Day today encompass?
Well, right now, my friends are setting up for a photo shoot, because I'm doing a photo shoot for, like, underwear company.
Okay.
And then I'm going to get ready for bingo, because I'm hosting bingo tonight at Graham's. Doing my makeup, and then I'm going to go to Graham's and drink a lot of champagne and eat this pizza that got delivered.
Oh my god.
Sounds like a good Valentine's,
Sounds
honestly.
amazing.
If you have any questions for Miss Toto, for Meredith, or I, feel free to call or text us in. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
I know this is a long shot, a stupid thing to do. I'm scared I'm gonna wreck this by telling you the truth. I know this is a long shot, out of the blue. I know that this is crazy, I'm sorry, but it's true. I think I love you. I think I love you. I know this is a long shot, it's nothing I can choose. I really need to say it. What is there to lose? Does it make your heart stop? Could you feel the same? I've kept this all a secret, but that's about to change. I think I love you. 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 Yeah, I think I love you. 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 I think I love you.
Welcome back. We are here with South Florida drag queen Miss Toto. Thank you so much for being here. Actually, during the break, we had a fan type in. They asked, they want to know what your worst fan encounter was like. So can you tell us a little bit about what that was?
I usually don't have many like weird bad fan encounters, but they all can get summed up into usually like drunk white girls at the gig that either
My favorite.
want to be a part of the show or are just like so loud and like abrasive is the word I'm looking for. I know it's not great, but it's like they just want to be in the damn show. I'm like, Mama, if you want to be a queen or a king, you better get in your gig and come on. Not during my show, not at all. But I think I handle it better than other queens. I know I would handle it worse than other queens actually, because I've seen queens who either like let them be a part of the show or like for them to be done. But I would actually probably stop performing and be like, "You get off my stage," and then have to get my track restarted.
Okay, Miss Toto, we actually got just another question texted in. Someone's asking, what's Miss Toto's favorite costume or performance?
My favorite costume has to be probably my green lingerie that I wear all the time.
Ooh.
I have like other pieces, but like this green lingerie, I'm wearing it tomorrow because I'm obsessed with it. But I got this like piece of lingerie made for Bushwig, which is a huge drag festival in New York. And it took like 4 months to get it made, and it was like dyed the color that I wanted, and then me and my friend stoned it. So it was a whole moment.
Now, I'm going to ask you...
My favorite...
Go ahead.
I was going to say my favorite performance is probably in between Fade. I did Fade by Kanye as Tiana Taylor.
Okay, watch out.
And then I also did And I'm Telling You. I actually posted that again on my Facebook today because it's Valentine's Day. And I'm Telling You from Dreamgirls.
Yeah. Are you going to be performing that tomorrow?
No, I'm performing other stuff.
Okay,
Oh.
It's a surprise. So I have actually a rated R question for you. Have you ever hooked up with someone in drag?
Ew. This boy tried. I was like, girl, can I take my wig off? Like, what is going on? Like, this is I'm that girl.
So we also want to know your story. We kind of want to know your background, where you're from, who you are, maybe how your parents feel about you doing drag.
Oh, yeah.
And who your best friends are, maybe your support system as well.
Those are all the
I'm
questions.
from like Western Maryland, and I was born in Cumberland. It's really close to West Virginia. Grew up there, like not meant for diversity, a lot of white people, and then I went to College Park for undergrad, where I got more exposed to what diversity is actually like. I met Indian people and Asian people and people that were like not just white people, which is crazy. And then I moved to Miami to do my master's at UM. So I was here, and while I was finishing and doing my master's is when I actually started drag. So then once I graduated, instead of jumping into a marine science career, I was thinking, like, why would I do that? And I'm having a lot of fun. I'm making money to sustain myself doing training and drag, so I can jump into a marine science career whenever I want. And I don't want to yet, so I'm not going to.
So do you think that's more like farther down the line?
Maybe, but I've learned so far to just go with the flow, because that was my main problem. Like, when I was in Miami, I hated it. I had friends, but no shade if any of y'all are listening, but like, I wasn't really vibing with anyone. It was like, I had friends, when I was moved back to DC, moved to New York for a big change, instead of embracing Miami and allowing myself to enjoy my time here. And it wasn't until I stopped trying to run away from Miami to where I found that I actually like the city, and I had my friends, and I was able to create relationships with people that make me feel good about being here.
Aww.
And do you feel like you've learned anything life-changing by doing drag? Like, what's been the biggest lesson you've learned?
To chill. Stop rushing through fucking oh my god, I put the F word, I'm sorry. Shut up.
Let's just bleep
Stop
it.
rushing. Bleep me out. Stop rushing through everything and just take a moment and realize where you are and relax. Because that was why I didn't like Miami at first. I was just trying to rush and run out of the city when I just needed to chill. And as soon as I did that, everything kind of fell into place.
Now, we want to give you the chance to give a shout out to all the people that really mean a lot to you, to the family that you didn't choose, but rather that you created because of drag. So feel free to give some Valentine's Day love to 3 people that you would not be able to live without, that you didn't choose to be a part of your family. Well, that you did choose to be a part of your family.
I would say I would give a major shout out to, like, which is my chosen family. Like, I have my drag moms. I have, like, 3. I have my drag mom, Athena, and then my first drag mom, Julie T. Carla. And then all of my drag sisters, there are probably like 15 of them, and I'm not going to name them all because that's too much. And what if I forget one listening and then they're like going to be offended? But they're the people that I text at any moment and be like, girl, listen to this dumb stuff that just happened to me. Or like, oh my God, look at this screenshot, because I'm like the screenshot queen. Look at this screenshot. This is such a mess. And we'll just be like talking all day or like laughing about the dumbest stuff. And I didn't have those relationships before starting drag. And that's, I think, part of the reason why I continue doing it, because that is the reason that I have been able to find what it means to be comfortable in the city. And they're the people that make me feel that.
Do you ever feel insecure, or maybe as though you compare yourself to your drag sisters?
No. At first when I started, I was like, oh my God, why is this queen doing that? Why is this queen doing that? But then I just needed to take a moment and be like, it doesn't matter because I'm doing my own thing.
Right.
They're doing their own thing.
Miss Toto,
and we're doing different things.
who do you look up to in the drag community? Who's your idol?
Well, I have like 14. But I would say one of them has to be Carla Croqueta. She's Carla Croqueta and Athena, because they're both so professional in what they do and how they carry themselves, that shows me that you can make a career out of drag. You can also reinvent yourself into whoever you want to be and build something really sustainable and creative.
Perfect.
I love that.
Well, that's all the time we have today. Thank you so much, Miss Toto, for being with us.
You're welcome. I will see you all tomorrow.
Of course. This is Miss Toto. You guys can follow her on Instagram, which I believe is Miss Toto, correct?
The Miss Toto.
The Miss Toto.
Is a rapper. That's not me. So I'm the Miss Toto.
So feel free to give her love, share her photos. Miss Toto performs all over South Florida. If you see her, do not be afraid to say hello. My name is Paul Schulz.
I'm Meredith Sloan.
And this is Talking Taboo. Thank you guys so much for listening in today.